Me.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Karen here from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. I'm here with my beautiful co-host Tina,
Hello.
hopping on a call to talk about well, not so recent, but we've been wanting to do this video for quite some time. A nice profiling case that everybody has done videos on. Um, so the video was about Aubrey Marcus, excuse me, with his wife Vailana, their partner Alana, right? And the fourth guest, Dr. Phil, I didn't have his name, but anyway,
Gaffney.
yeah, they had a Dr. Gaffney, there as the fourth party in this podcast that they did to discuss their not polyamorous relationship, but what they're coining as radical monogamy.
In the realm
So,
of exotic mystics. It has a very long
oh
title.
yeah, sorry, I forgot. Well, dot dot dot, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So this isn't a video that we would normally do, but
no,
I feel like this is such a great case study and it really is like an offering to the collective. So I'm grateful
yeah,
that they were brave enough to do a video like this and to take the backlash from it because there's
yeah,
been a lot of backlash. And that's because people are tired of the BS. People can see through it now. They can see right through it. Like there's so much light that they're not falling for it anymore. And so when you come out with something like this, like people are going to call it out. So like every single comment on that video was not supportive of him, but was more supportive of like the wife, Vailana, who's the one being targeted here. She's the target.
yeah. And
She's the
she's the one
target.
who is. I mean, if you count the amount of times that she mentioned death, like for herself, like however she worded it, is it ego death? I don't know how she
Died.
worded.
Yeah, she
Yeah, how
said,
many times I died or had to die over and over again.
and push her boundaries, keep
Yeah,
pushing past her boundaries, the fear, right? Okay, so let's start from the beginning.
yeah.
So, first of all, the backdrop we have to talk about. The setup, the stage.
Mhm.
Right in the center is a big cross of Malta with an eye of Providence in the middle, right? And then his icon for Aubrey Marcus looks like a Freemason symbol, the
Yeah.
square and
If you just
compass.
continued the lines.
Yeah, if you continue the lines, it's a Freemason symbol. So there's a lot of symbology already there in the background that you know there's something deeply occult here,
Mhm.
deeply hidden. And then he has that big red ring on his finger.
Yeah.
Um, not implying anything, but what is that? What does it symbolize?
Mhm.
So there's a lot going on. The Eye of Providence symbolizes the great architect that's always watching. So that's right there, like center stage.
Mhm.
And when you consider the doctor who has a very much, I would say he has a past
Mhm.
and he has a lot of connections with people who are in that world, that deeply hidden occult world. And so it feels to me like he's kind of like a handler for them. And they have to know his history. They have to know that he's been accused of sexual assault, not only in the US, but also in Israel. He ran from Israel to the US, then um, I don't know if he was ever actually charged. I don't remember because I read it a long time ago, but just looking at him,
Mhm.
like the first time I watched it, I had to fast forward a lot of what he was saying because the energy just felt so icky to me.
Mhm.
It felt
Yeah.
so icky.
Definitely has
And
a high level entity working behind him
yes,
to
and you
have
can
like those kind of golem hands.
the hands, that's what got me. It was the hands. And for some reason, I just knew that those hands belonged to, it's hard to talk because we don't know what we can say on YouTube anymore. Um, a person that molests children, like that's what the hands felt like to me. And I didn't even know anything about his past when that came up, but it was just an icky, gross feeling about him. And you can see how he's puppeting through this like brainwashing and gaslighting all three of these people, really, but mostly the women. And it's a really sad situation.
Oh
So
yeah, wait, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, I really want you to bring up like because we did watch the video and it took us like 8 hours. That's I'm exaggerating, but it took us a really long time to break it down and to really listen and feel what our bodies were feeling. But I really want you to bring up like their the quotes, the verbatim quotes.
oh
Those were really like good ones because we just want people to listen to the words and what they're saying. And yeah,
it's just word salad. It's word salad. And
it's just a lot of what? Like what they'd say, they talk, and I'm like, that makes no sense. You make no sense.
it's not polyamory, it's
Yeah,
radical monogamy.
yeah.
Radical, like completely redefining monogamy. Like how, what?
No, it's just like pure gaslighting. That whole video is just gaslighting. And it was just really annoying to watch like a man who's clearly like very perverted and um selfish have his two women on, and it was just such a weird ambiance. And like Vailana was crying a lot, which was really heartbreaking to watch. But it's like they're so far apart from each other that what caught me was like, why isn't anyone touching her? Like,
Like comforting her.
comforting her. Like,
Hmm.
if that was my wife or, or her girlfriend that's next to her too, like you should go in the shot. And even if you're just like whatever, like just to cover even a hand to say like it's okay,
Right.
there's no comforting. Everybody's in their own cubicle. It was very distant. It was like, I don't know, it's so off. Everything just felt so off, so disconnected. And I felt like they were trying to sell us a product.
Yeah. I think they actually were trying to sell us a product. And that product is radical monogamy. And this doctor's book, that he's so proud of, that it was like they were trying to sell that as a new relationship dynamic.
Right. Even though,
It's the
okay, so
same
how about,
exact, it's the
right,
same exact thing as polyamory. It's the same
right.
thing
But
by
why do they not call it
definition.
that? But why did they stop calling it that?
They
Because,
stopped calling it that because everybody in a monogamous relationship is cheating and lying to each other. So, in order to
right.
be honest, they're redefining monogamy in this way so they don't have to lie to each other.
And also because Aubrey Marcus had also said that he doesn't do that anymore. He's not a
Right,
polygamist.
right. Because let's talk about the history. So, his
Yeah,
history
let's
is
go back up.
is exploring polyamory. That's what he's been doing up until he met his wife. And he was with this other woman named, listen, we only know about this because of that video. We don't follow these people. We didn't know anything about them before this, but it was such a great case study in manipulation and gaslighting and relationship dynamics that we had to kind of like dive in and see what was going on here, why it's making such a big splash in the collective. So yeah, so the backstory is he was in a polyamorous relationship with his girlfriend Whitney. And in while he was in that relationship, if I'm getting this right, they met Vailana and he wanted
Oh,
to be with her too. But
hmm,
she was like, no, you got a girlfriend over there. Like, absolutely not. I'm not into this. So that was that. But he
hmm,
never forgot about her. Like
hmm.
she was
That
also with someone at the time, but he always like from what he described, she really like struck him, like he was really into her. So when he found out that she broke up with her boyfriend, he was like all down for it. And so I guess that's when he approached her and he was out of his relationship. So they got together and they got together with him knowing that she was not into polyamory.
Yeah.
So they
She
came
made
out,
that very clear.
she made that very clear from the first time they met. So he came out, they came out, did a couple of their own podcasts together about their own divine union and their relationship and how polyamory didn't work for him anymore. And so, they got married and they got married really quickly, I think within a few weeks. So they get married, they're in this relationship. I think it's somehow at some point he convinces her like to be somewhat open and start exploring.
Right after he baits her. Like,
After he baits her, ties her down, gets her into that marriage contract. And then it's like, okay, well, let me see how I can push her boundaries. So that's how this works.
mhm.
They tell you everything you want to hear. They get you into that contract. And then once you're into that contract, they start to break you down and see how far they can push you. And that's exactly how she described it. But in her mind, and from what she's probably being told by the doctor, is that she has to push through all of her fears. And what did she say her greatest fear was? In every single relationship she's ever
Mhm.
had, as soon as she felt safe, the rug was pulled out from under her
Every single time.
every single time. And that was her biggest wound. And that was her biggest fear. And
Yeah.
so,
Having to like compete for somebody, like she's never number one to somebody. And
right,
that roots back to her childhood, like being, when her sister came into the picture after and her parents had to split time and now giving more time to her sister.
right, giving more time and attention to the younger sister,
Yeah, the younger pure sister.
the younger pure sister,
We'll get to that.
freshly new innocence. Yeah, it's so weird. So that's her deepest wound and that's her biggest fear. And so they're exploring or whatever. They're on this Raya app, and I guess it's like where you
It's
can
like
hook
a
up
Tinder. Yeah.
with other famous people or whatever. And so they're in Miami, and Aubrey's at the gym, and he gets a divine download that tells him, go on Raya and check it right now.
Yeah, I
So he
bet.
does. He follows that cue from spirit, from God, as he calls it, God. And he passes through the first one. Nope. Goes to the second one. And he's like, the goddess has arrived. So he sees Alana and he's like, oh, I got to message this girl. And he messages her and says, this might sound a little bit woo woo, but I just had this, download to get on Raya and here you
Such a line.
are. And
Such a
she was
fucking
like,
line.
oh, well, like woo woo is my thing or something like that. So they connect and they go out on a date or whatever. And
Like a threesome date or
a
something, like for
threesome date.
lunch.
Yeah, for lunch. And Alana and Vailana really click because they're both from Hawaii. I don't know if they're from Hawaii, but they both live
They have
there.
a connection, if anything.
They have a connection to Hawaii and they really hit it off because it's rare that you find someone that has a connection to Hawaii. The other thing interesting about the two of them is that both of their names contain the word Lana, which means light. So they both have a connection to Hawaii. They both have a light in their name. They hit it off at lunch and they kind of start seeing each other. Now, I think their second date, wasn't it their
Red,
second
red,
date?
red flag number 8.
Second date or get together, whatever you want to call it. They ask her to do this God bomb ceremony, which is a combination of ketamine and cannabis in a pitch black dark room where Aubrey does body work and Vailana does her sound, which is beautiful. She's a beautiful like musician, but yeah, with this young girl who's 28 years old, like they're like
Fresh
what
meat.
20 years, yeah, they're like 20 years older than, or Aubrey is at least 20 years older than her. So they're drugged. All of them are drugged.
Mhm,
And it feels so predatory to me,
mhm.
like to engage in a ritual like that with a young girl who described herself as when she met them as just being out of a relationship, being extremely vulnerable and lost and kind of didn't have any direction of, what she was doing because apparently like the person she was with before was like a rich guy who was like taking care of her or whatever. So she was kind of lost without him. And yeah, and then hooks up with Aubrey and Bailana and it just feels like she's prey.
It's really icky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like literally fresh meat on the table that they're just trying to size up and see like how far she'll go pushing her boundaries too through ritual, through the drugs, that intoxication, being in that trance state with that music and singing and body work. And, I'm sure there was a lot of like attraction here. So definitely that arousal. So
Well,
they
yeah,
don't
even
talk about,
Vailana said like her Shakti was all
oh yeah, her
going.
Shakti was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They don't confirm that they've done some like sexual acts, but it's pretty much implied. Like,
it feels that way. It
yeah,
feels that way, but I don't know if they actually did. I think
I'm
they
pretty sure they did. If
so,
I mean, because they're not really, I mean, they didn't say it, but it's not like they're really hiding it.
but later on they said something to the effect of like they were tiptoeing around that, like being um connected sexually, like later on.
Yeah,
But
tiptoeing.
anyway,
I highly doubt there's tiptoeing.
either way, it's a highly erotic kind of ceremony to be in. And for someone who's lost and vulnerable, like just being under the influence, number one, and being in the presence of two people in the dark with body work being done and all of that, this is what this community thinks of as spiritual. This is spiritual to them.
Right.
Doing drugs, ceremony, rituals, and like that's what
Bringing
they
up the
deem
Shakti,
spiritual. Yeah. When
sex magic.
it's completely sex magic. It's completely inverted. Like it's all base desire energy. It's all about
Yeah.
what is pleasurable, what is going to please me. It's all really like base desire, rooted in base desire. So they have this ceremony, they get even more deeply connected. Um, and then they go to Egypt at some point.
Let's skip a few
Skipping ahead.
steps. Yeah, yeah. But that's still a big stamp in their threesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're the core threesome, but there's other players that come in. But anyway,
Mhm.
this is the core threesome. They go to Egypt. They go to the temple of Isis. They're having their spiritual, um, what do you call it?
Activation.
Yeah, their activation, wearing, like the fancy garb. That else cracks me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I forgot what temple it was. Was it the
It was
temple of
Isis.
Isis? Yeah. That Aubrey gets a very clear download by what he assumes is Isis, um, that he has to impregnate both girls. And he's really like, this is the part that was irking me when he got it, and he's like, huh? Oh? Like, and I'm like, just looking at him, and he said it again. He's like, you have to impregnate or whatever. And he's like, what? I'm like, you heard it and you're so stupid. Like, shut up. Shut up. You're so dumb. Like, it was so dumb to watch that, like pretending to be shocked. And so he has to break this news to his wife, which again, another thing that was so against like her boundaries, against like their vows or the things, you know, that they had agreed upon. You know, she didn't want the polyamorous relationship, but then eventually said fine. And then
Pushing
both
her
women,
boundaries,
yeah, keep
pushing and
pushing.
pushing and pushing. Yeah.
Yeah. So him bringing that up, you know, it really brought them into a really dark place. And
He was going to throw himself into the Nile.
yeah, that's what he said. He's like, I was so bad, I was just going to throw myself to the Nile. And I'm just kind of like, who the fuck? Why are you listening to this ghost? Like, if it
Right.
doesn't feel in alignment, you have the free will to say, like, sorry, Isis, I'm not going to fucking do that. That's it. The end. It's over. I'm not talking to my wife about it. I'm making the decision. This is stupid. Bye bye. It's not, but he's like, what? So annoying. I was gonna take it. I was like, you're so stupid. Stop
Right. And
acting. That's pretty bad acting.
he says that his heart dropped into his stomach.
No, it fucking didn't.
But if that's true, say that's true. Say you
Okay.
get a
Yeah, okay.
piece,
Let's pick humor.
say you get a message from spirit that makes your heart drop into your stomach. Is that a good sign?
Apparently.
No, it's
No, but
not.
I mean like apparently to him. But yes, I know. No.
You know
That
what I
should
mean?
already be like a clear, like, absolutely not.
Exactly.
Nope. Nope. But because it's her, I guess Isis,
Because it's what he
putting
wants
some
to hear. It's
right.
because it's what he wants to hear. If that's not even coming from his own self, you
No,
know, it
no.
could be coming
Well,
from his own self.
right. And someone raised a really good point, like when we were watching some of those things, like, okay, well, if that's the case, um, he got this message regarding these two women, then why didn't the women get this message too? Why did they get the same memo from
Right.
ISIS?
That
Be
their
like,
bodies are going to be
girls,
used.
yeah,
Right.
like gals just letting you in on the little secret, but you guys have to have a baby. Like he's gonna be the father of both your babies. And then they could make a collective decision. Instead of giving him, that opportunity to make the decision for the women as the man,
The
as the
authority
king.
as the
Yeah.
king. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was really annoying. Just to watch that, you're just like, I go, why does it feel like, he has his back to the wall when that's not true? The only person who really had their back to the wall was Valana. Every
The whole
time,
time.
the whole
Every
time.
time.
She was up at the
She's the
wall.
only person who had anything to sacrifice.
Yeah, no one, the little girl didn't. Um, the doctor was just, what was the word? Something about bias. He was
Confirmation
yeah,
bias.
confirmation bias. He was there for that. And to,
And to
yeah,
gaslight Vylana.
totally. That was
Mhm.
really hard to watch. Just like why are you getting some guy like that into your relationship and being like that third party to tell you like, okay, you need to die now so that you can be free, like selling it as freedom.
Selling it as freedom. It's so triggering for me because it's like it's just so wrong. It's so wrong. And like all of this is so wrong and so distorted. And not because they're polyamorous. It's not about that. It's about taking an energy, a divine union, and distorting it and trying to make it something that it's not. If you want to be
Mhm.
polyamorous, go for it, but don't try to reframe it as something that it's not.
Right, right.
It's not spiritual, it's not divine, it's your base desires playing out.
Yeah, it's just a
Period.
bunch, like it's just a pervert who's getting his needs met.
Yeah. And how many times did they say, like, we're not projecting, but we're offering a model for future
So
relationships?
it's like
We're
they
not
just like cross
projecting,
that
but we
out.
are. Yeah.
That was weird too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
doctor, I feel like his role in it's just a way for him to exploit his own fetishes. Like it's,
Oh yeah. You could see he was getting off of that whole fucking conversation.
yeah,
Just so pleased with himself.
so pleased with himself. Yeah.
Well, Aubrey too, so pleased with himself. you have this, yeah, like your wife crying and talking about her self-sacrificing, not in those words, but talking about her self-sacrificing and death. And, with her trying to gain and push through her boundaries to gain freedom. And it's just like, I kept asking that question. I go, what the fuck is he giving up to get there? They didn't talk about, what was the two terms? Sacrifice versus compromise was another
Mm.
thing that was brought up too. And it was just a lot of, I don't know if you can hear that. I was, oh my God. I'm like, bro, God, another win for the king. Like, no
Right.
sacrifice on his end. He's the one who sets the rules and the tones. And then it's like, it's either you like it or you don't. And if you don't, you're not in alignment. And therefore you have to push yourself again to
You have to
die
heal
again.
yourself. Right. You have the problem. You're the one that's in fear of being in a polyamorous relationship or radical monogamy, whatever.
Yeah, even if
You're
your
the one that's
body's
in fear.
screaming,
Yeah. And you can see Vailana is she's dying inside,
dying.
dying inside.
Thank God he gave her a playmate,
Self-betrayal. Yeah. I mean, her and Alana get along great,
thankfully.
and she has Alana is like her support person, but
There's no
it,
support from her husband, which is where she should be getting it first and foremost.
yeah.
As the real divine masculine partner, should be able to make those decisions and putting his power within himself and not into what he's saying is goddess Isis. And then whatever it is that he's coming up with, these stupid ideas, and then getting influenced by Mr. Dr. Pervert,
Well, it's obvious that he is not sovereign. He's being played
obviously.
like a
Yeah.
puppet by these entities to do exactly what all these other male gurus did over the centuries.
Yeah, the gurus. Yeah, there's nothing new that's going on here.
There's nothing new under the sun. This has been played out over and over and over again with, I mean, how many? You could think of all these cult leaders like Joseph Smith and um, John of God. And I mean, go back, through the Bible and all these men that had concubines, like that was, it's just their thing. And but it's these entities implanting the ideas because they want
Right.
to spread their seed. They want to spread their seed through all of these women to continue and creating these hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that this video came out when it did because there was like a massive infiltration of divine unions that started happening in March with this really dark masculine energy represented by Stoths.
Mm.
And it's some kind of implant into the divine union template to disrupt it. Because what is it? It's dark Atlantean energy.
Mm. Yeah, that was with their, in contrast to the light by Lana and Alana of in Hawaii, the energy of Lemuria.
Yeah. So it's the dark Atlantean infiltration of Lemuria playing out again. And these women, because they don't fully understand what's happening, they're allowing it to happen. Why? Because they're blinded by money and power and prestige and guruism.
Oh
Like
God, yeah.
I think that's really what's blinding them from seeing the full truth. I mean, because even in Vailana's after like post afterwards, I mean, she says over and over again, I never wanted this.
She says that a lot.
She says that a lot.
And her
I
body
never
language
wanted this.
speaks very loudly in that whole video.
I never wanted this, but I feel the most free. Like, if you feel so free, why are you crying this whole time?
Right.
Because
Right.
it's not true freedom. You're betraying yourself on the behalf of another person. It's self-betrayal.
Right. And there was a lot of that, fear being demonized throughout that whole thing. And they were just kind of covering it up with like the spiritual concepts or, gaslighting via the spiritual concepts to make it sound so flowery and whatever.
Yes,
It's like
let's
you're
talk
just,
about that.
yeah,
Let's talk about the demonization of fear because that's huge in the New Age community is demonizing fear. Anything that you're afraid of
shame, any
is
of it.
wrong. Yeah, shame. We have emotions for reasons. Emotions are messengers, even fear. The problem comes when fear is out of balance, right?
When anything is out of balance,
When
yeah.
anything is out of balance. But fear, especially, it's dangerous when it's demonized because if you completely shut off your fear, you're never going to know when danger is approaching. You're just going to be like, oh, it's fine.
That's why you have these two perverts demonizing the fear so that they can't pick up on, like, hey, my husband's a predator, and hey, my therapist is a predator. Whoops a daisy.
Exactly. So it takes away that antenna. The fear
Mm.
is the antenna that's telling you something is wrong here. You're afraid of this for a reason, not because there's something wrong with you or because of your wounds. You're afraid of this because there's something to be afraid of.
Right. Yeah.
And you're right,
Screaming, screaming loud and clear.
right, and you're right, they strip them of that so that they can't sense when they're in the presence of a predator.
Right. And because he's right. And because he's pushing the boundaries over and over again, they lose their sense of self. And yeah, he's just going to keep going till she's completely cuckoo. And then he'll discard her
Yeah.
till she's completely deteriorated or crazy and
Right,
then discard her.
because to him, she's a prize, right? Because he couldn't have her when they initially met, and she was like a prize to be
Well, she
had,
actually had a boundary saying, like, no, I don't want this, or you in a relation
right? Which is why he wanted her more because she had a boundary, and he wanted to push
to
past that
break it.
boundary and keep breaking those boundaries. And so she was a prize to be had. He had her, and now he's on to the next prize, which is
Which
this
he is good.
beautiful goddess of purity.
Yeah, that whole spiel was so awkward and crickets. Just me, like, I think even secure people can, like, okay, Tina and I are together and there's somebody there, and then I start praising and bringing up this person, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why? Like, your wife is sitting right there, and just the choice words that he was using for her, the purity and the goddess, yeah,
Innocence.
innocence, like placing her on that pedestal
So
of,
pure. He said
yeah,
that
so pure.
repeatedly. So
Yeah, so
pure.
pure. And I'm like, okay, so therefore she can not make a mistake. She cannot be human. She cannot be imperfect or whatever the case is,
Mm-mm.
because they've already labeled her that. So what kind of bar does this girl have to live up to? You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy how they don't. Yeah, they just take away the humanity. And I don't know
Yeah.
what else you have to say
Right.
about that, but
Right. And you can tell that in the way that she speaks because she speaks a lot of kind of word salad too.
a lot's of word salad. I was
Right.
ready to
Like
go get the Caesar dressing,
it's
croutons. I was like,
because she only speaks what it feels like she thinks she's allowed to say. And it has to be
mm,
perfect and it
yeah, it
has
has
to
to
be
sound
pure.
angelic.
It has to sound
Yeah.
angelic. And I do think she has that energy about her. But then in that embodiment of just that energy, she's totally deflecting the shadow,
Mm,
which
yeah.
then in the background, the shadow is growing and growing and growing and getting suppressed at the
Yeah.
same time.
Suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a lack of authenticity, which is, I think, what people
Oh,
feel
yeah. Yeah. It's getting really like too fake because she has to live up to this
purity.
idea. Yeah. That he put on her, slapped it right onto her.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, like, you see him and hear him, yeah, doing that like devotional speech about her purity in front of his wife.
That would kill me if you were talking about somebody else, like a third party, that I'm like, kill me. But I'd be like,
Yeah.
It's very flirty and like really like and at the same time kind of jabbing his wife. Like I like there was a lot of that passive aggressive stuff in the background, like
Yes.
where they were like kind of she would say something and then he would go more and then they would I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They just kept
They never
battling
really
in the
fully,
background.
yeah, and they
I don't
never,
know.
and Valana was never really allowed to fully finish what she was saying without that doctor interjecting.
Oh yeah. See, he probably had the doctor say like if there's anything that kind of goes off course, then you need to cut it. Like you be my middleman and cut that out. It feels like that. You know, we can't go too far with certain topics, but yeah, it was like a 10-minute conversation about how fucking pure the other girl was. And
Well, that it feels like the sacrifice of innocence in that case. Almost
well, it was
like
very
a virgin like
ritualistic.
sacrifice, it feels like
Yeah.
to these dark masculine entities. Because that's
Yeah.
what they're looking for, right? They're always looking for that purity, that innocence. And then he goes on this spiel about like defending as a sacred masculine, defending that purity. And oh God, it's just
How are you
so
defending purity and the sacredness if you're having a fucking orgy? Like, how is that? It doesn't make sense in my head. How it's like, and then, and you know, in the spiritual talk, he's talking about doggy style and
oh
like
God.
such terms that I'm like, I go, whoa, that went dark. It's like that was so gross. Just how he's talking about, like, you
But he
know,
had to, I feel like he injected that specifically to let everybody know it's not just him that is doing this and messing around with other women. Bailana's doing it too, because apparently she had a lovership. The words that they're using, they're changing all the language to make it fit their agenda. So the lovership she had with Josh,
is that
he's
like just a lover?
a lovership.
Okay, so they don't. Okay, sorry,
Yeah, they're it's a full relationship as far as I understand.
they're just not married.
They're not married, but he wanted everybody to know like it's not just me doing this. She's doing it too. Like so it's like a tit for tat. And he had to inject like those the words he used about like the what in his mind he's thinking about, right? Because in his mind
It
he's
kills
thinking of
him.
it kills him because that's what he's thinking about, his wife doing it with this other guy.
I
And
don't
what's
think
in
he was expecting that though.
right, because she said she wasn't into it. So he's like, all right, well, this is good for me.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about her.
I don't have to worry about her. But now she's into it too and had this other relationship. And then they go on to explain how he helped her make this connection with this guy, Josh, and he was all for it. And when you could tell he's dying inside, they're both dying inside. This is what I'm saying. Like it's not in alignment when you're dying inside, thinking about your husband or wife with another person. That is not in alignment. That is not monogamy, radical or not. Like it's just
Let's
not
just
at
kill that
all.
right here and there.
Kill it right
Like
here. It's not
a
monogamy.
radical mistake. It just sounds so cool, I guess.
Erotic, yeah, radical monogamy of erotic mystics in the realm of erotic mystics.
Okay,
What?
we're not in that realm.
We're not in
It's
that
so,
realm. Thank
we're
God
not,
we're not in that
it's
realm.
no. Oh God, who has time for that?
Right. And the whole reason of like because it's all because like when you see people in monogamous relationships, they're always cheating and lying to each
Oh
other.
yeah,
Well,
that was it.
instead
That
of
was their selling
like
point.
why that's their selling point. Like instead of not lying, not cheating on each other, like why don't you get to the root cause of why people are cheating on each other and lying about it? Get to the root cause and heal that instead of creating this whole other paradigm for you to fit yourself in so you don't have to lie to each other. So in their minds, they're justifying because it's all open and we
Yeah,
don't
because it's
lie to
open
each
cheat,
other about
not
it.
cheating, but it's like
It's
a
not cheating.
triple.
It's divine. It's erotic mysticism.
Oh, because they said that by telling the truth makes it more of a spiritual, it's worthy, it's that's what just that's the justifying point. I'm not lying.
I'm not lying.
Honest about my non-cheating.
Transgressions.
Yeah, my monogamy
Yeah.
with each partner.
And they claim that because people, monogamous relationships, people in monogamous relationships, they live in shame because they can't live out their fetishes and desires.
Unlike these two perverts that are so open about it, like talking about it.
Right. This is what all of this about is about. So these perverts can live out their fetishes and desires. How is
Right.
that spiritual again?
Well, because I forgot what terms they used, but it sounded really spiritual, I guess.
This is
If
how
you're blinded by the light, then yeah.
blinded by the light. This is how people get fooled by this inversion, like the inversion and the gaslighting and the spiritual language, this like flowery language that they cover everything with. If you take away that language and just speak in real words, it sounds completely ridiculous.
Yeah, how about we do that? I would have liked to see a different version. Like this is pretty much what they're saying.
Mhm.
I'm a pervert. I want you, but I also want her. Um, you're probably not going to believe me because you already told me what your boundary is, but I'm going to push you anyway. And because we have a doctor therapist, he's going to tell you that you're crazy so that he can buddy up with me and so that I can fuck whoever I want and go on my yacht with all my ladies and be fucking cool and yeah, have all the sex that I want and
Write
say and
poems
make
about
money.
it.
Yeah,
Write poems
and
about
sell
it.
it. And I like how Valana was just like, I don't know, like I don't even know. They share like those Rumi poems, and I don't fucking understand Rumi. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like another jab to them, like
Yeah.
yeah, just little things like that. You just catch the little nuances that they're kind of implying, but they were pretty vague. I have to say, like if in the grander scheme of things, very vague about the story and giving too much of the same salad,
Okay, so
if you
let's
will.
pick up where we left off. So after the
Yeah.
Egypt thing,
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, "Oh my
The
God,
timeline.
I have to tell Vailana. How am I gonna? She knows that she's gonna freak out. She does. They get in this big fight. He's gonna throw himself in the Nile. She's trying to take her ring off to throw it, and she can't get it off.
So stupid.
So then, after that kind of settles, they have to tell Alana what happened.
Oh, fuck. Because now she's accepting. Like, now we have to tell her because Isis said it to us.
Isis said it. Yeah.
Right. So both hearts in the stomach, both of them. And now they're like, okay, let's go tell Alana. And then we're like, what? It's just so ridiculous.
So they do. They tell Alana, and she's like, "Oh my God, like I had a couple of my friends tell me that they saw me having babies with Aubrey."
Oh, God. Okay. Let's cut to the kind of work that Tina and I do, the work that we do. We've seen many times entities that are, let's say, like octopus entities that have tentacles. And you see how these tentacles, they're like finger puppets. One goes up Aubrey's ass, one goes up Vailana's, one goes up Alana's, and then the two friends. And they're all puppeted by the same entity.
Yeah.
So this entity feeds the two friends, like, oh, you're going to have his baby. And then this, the entity tells them whatever. Like, so there's a lot of that serendipitous shit going on here. And or what they take as serendipity or things that are like divinely aligned or, all that.
Synchronistic.
Oh, yeah, synchronistic is a big word. But then, if you look at it like that, we're pretty much being played by one entity, one dark entity.
Right. And you have to know when synchronicity is actually in alignment with your divine self. Like you always have to check in, like, is this actually in alignment with me or not? And
Well,
people
so
aren't
far,
doing that. But
yeah.
but that's the thing. I guess he kind of is because that is in alignment with what he wants. He's doing that.
He's the one who heard it from Isis, okay? Did he hear anything? probably not. He could have just had that thought and said, oh, well, I'll just call it spiritual. It is like, they can't deny that a goddess Isis while we're here in Egypt. I got this major download,
He also had
or
that
whatever
thing where he had
entity.
that, like, he said the star came down from God and planted in his forehead. What was that one?
Honestly, I don't know.
I
I
can't
mean,
remember.
I remember hearing it, but is probably like a lot of eye rollage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so no questioning of like these synchronicities and messages. And this is the problem with spirituality.
Mhm.
This is the problem, is that people are blindly following these messages from spirit and then just carrying out their agenda. And
Yep.
and how does that work? It's because these messages aren't in alignment with divinity. They're hooking into the ego, the desire. What do
The one
I
that wants to
want?
feel
What does the
special.
ego want? The ego wants to feel special. The ego wants to feel like, that he's in charge and he gets to play out all of his desires and erotic mysticism. Like that's what he wants. So
Right. He wants to sell this so that it justifies his desires
yeah, and fetishes
and
and drug
fetishes.
use. Apparently, he's done over like 1,500 plant ceremonies. I mean, by that time, you're gone. Sorry, you're gone.
Yeah, you've given up yourself way too much.
Yeah. Um, oh, they said they're not doing this for themselves. They're doing this for the sake of love.
Oh, oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm
And
so
really,
touched.
and really what it feels like is like this introduction, introducing this like acceptance of immorality,
Right,
like making it acceptable
right.
to change words, like to change the definition of monogamy.
It's so fucking weird.
Yeah. It's like this elaborate spiritual bypass. The
Yeah,
whole
it's so
thing.
obvious. Like you
It's so
can't
elaborate.
deny. They're like radical monogamy, but we are three. So it's so stupid.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. When he saw Vailana, he had the white star of light.
Mm,
That's
mhm.
when he, right?
Oh,
So it's
the
like
message from God.
yes, the entity's like pinging that, like you need to get with her because you're going to gain her trust and then you're going to slowly break her down because she's the target.
Well, predators
She's the
know who's to
target.
prey on.
Mhm.
They know exactly who to prey on.
Yeah. And so she starts to accept a little at a time, more and more and more over time, just like slowly breaking her down, pushing her boundaries, dying inside over and over and over again. But don't worry, because she feels so free now.
Yeah, at some point in the interview, like, you do have hope for Vailana, but I forgot how she stated it in the interview where I was really like, okay, she's gone. There's no turning back. There's like point of no return already. She's already gone. She's already accepted her fate because of her commitment to freedom, to freeing herself. So it was almost like, well, there's no turning back now. They put that as her basis of like, you need to do this to free yourself. And of course that's what she wants. Who wouldn't want that? So it was really devastating to see that. Like, oh, there we go. Lost another sister.
Yeah, and the both of them are so powerful and beautiful women. Like,
Oh yeah. And you could see like on the panel of them, like you have the two dark bookends, like the two men at the ends of the table. And it was just like, yeah, and then the darkness of Aubrey, and then how she, you have Violana next to him who was full of light, but how she's been corrupted and eroded over time and how many deaths she's had to do in that relationship. And then you have a lighter, like a childlike. It was almost like the father.
Child. Yeah. Mother,
Yeah,
father, child.
yeah. And they look
Yeah.
like that in the pictures
They
too.
look like that in the pictures. There's one specifically where they're standing on a rock, where Aubrey's standing at the top, then Bailana, then Alana. And it looks like it does. It looks like father, mother, child. She looks like their child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just a lot of perversion brought in there and then claiming it as spiritual. But yeah, it's totally backwards, super satanic.
Super satanic, right? All this inversion, right? And even like we're talking about like the background, like even when you look at the coloring of the background, he uses like
Mm.
that deep red color, right? Which is
And the ring
associated,
too, like
and
you
the
said.
ring, which is associated with the root and like really base desires. When you think about that deep red color, what do you think of? You think of Satanism.
Mhm.
So, and that's exactly what this is. Satanism is an inversion of what's divine. It's not divinity, it's an inversion of it. So, yeah, and Vilana, talking about like this is the most difficult initiation that
Is
she's
that her
ever
quote?
had. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, please read it.
initiation, quote unquote. Um, and through every self-sacrifice, through every death, she finds so much freedom. Yeah. So there's this like false choice coercion that's happening here. Like if you choose this, you'll be free. That's
Yeah.
the
That's
belief
back.
that they fed
Yep.
her. If you choose this, you'll be free.
Meanwhile, her back's against the wall. There is no choice in the end. She really has none.
Mhm.
Because anytime she ever set a boundary or what she didn't want to do, it was to challenge that boundary and to push further so that she looks at herself and not what her body's screaming, like, I don't want this.
Right. And this is where people take healing and invert it. It's almost like what happens in that other cult, the one with Jeff and Aaliyah is her name. I forget, something like that. The twin flame couple, where they take
Mm.
the idea of mirroring to the extreme. When someone mirrors you or when someone upsets you about something, it must be because it's your fault. There's something wrong with you or something unhealed within you that is upset. And that's not necessarily always true. In fact, your fear or your trigger can be a sign that this thing, this person, this situation is not in alignment with you. But when you believe that everything is a mirror to the extreme, you start to internalize, well, what's wrong with me if I'm
Feeling and seeing
not
or
if
thinking
I'm
that.
triggered by this situation, there must be something wrong with me. Not like my body's screaming to get out of here, but like there must be something wrong with me, unhealed within me. So it's like turning it back inward, mirror, 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 when it's not always the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are triggered because your system is telling you that this is not in alignment. And that's what's happening here. She's consistently turning that mirror back on herself and being told
Yeah.
to turn that mirror back on herself because she's the one that's wounded here. She's the one that needs to
She's the
get past
one.
her fear and her wounding.
Yeah. And it's hard, especially like when you want to just, they're not even giving enough time for someone to process, to be with themselves, to kind of sit with it. Instead, they have, she's in a crisis and they have that Dr. Douchebag on speed dial to kind of talk her into a corner again,
Right.
gaslight her.
Right. Because it's not her natural inclination to want other men.
Mm-mm.
And then she goes and then she talks about this like reciprocity of energy between them. Like she kind of lets him do this and he supports her in other ways. It's not the same, but it's a reciprocity of energy. And then the doctor goes on, oh, yeah, I love the way you described that.
Yeah.
It's just,
He's like, I loved it. He's talking like with his like reptile hands.
okay. So here is the mental gymnastics by Mark Gaffney talking about what is radical monogamy. in a field of erotic mystics.
Oh, yeah, take it away,
He says it's not about polyamory.
sir.
It's actually about radical monogamy, deep, exclusive, lifelong, committed relationship, right? But not in the classical monogamous sense. It's an expanded monogamy. But there's a radical monogamy, but it's just not a monogamy of two. It's a
Okay,
slightly bigger monogamy.
with a village.
But it's not okay. It's not okay. We're not in and out of partners. No, it's not the polyamory road. It's not classical monogamy mode. It's a radical monogamy of deep exclusivity between Aubrey and Vi. And then there's going to be a new goddess
Oh,
who will step into the field, who will also step into the field of radical monogamy in the field of erotic mystics.
wow. Wow. And let's define monogamy because
Monogamy.
they said it wasn't, or is it define polyamory? I forgot what it was.
Polyamory is the
Yeah.
practice of engaging in multiple romantic and what is that word I wrote? Sexual relationships
So
with
it doesn't
consent
miss.
of all people
Oh,
involved.
there, consent. So it's this, it's exactly what they're doing.
It's exactly what they're doing. That's polyamory.
Yeah. Because he's
Polyamory.
saying that it's not because it's truthful or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Open, truthful.
Open. Hmm.
Yeah.
But
And
polyamory,
they're not in and out of partners. So they're not just like sleeping around. They have longer relationships. So that's
whatever.
it's
It's fucking
polyamory.
polyamory. Let's
It's
just,
polyamory. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. Don't try to and this is what you were saying earlier is because Aubrey denounced polyamory and said it didn't work for him anymore. They had to come up with a new name because he changed his mind and
he
it
can't
does
just go back
work.
and say, like, listen, I'm a pervert. I love women and that it is what it is. I can't get away from it. I have a problem. Just be fucking honest. I think then he would get like an applause, like, wow, okay, cool. You do you.
Yeah.
You do you.
They talk a lot about honesty, but there's so much dishonesty
Dishonesty
here,
or roundabout ways to justify.
which is dishonest.
Right. In the end.
Yeah. And they're calling this evolution. This is the evolution of love, the evolution of relationships, evolution.
Yeah. So they make it sound really important. It's so important. It's
Yeah.
like they're in their own delusion, literally. Because they set this on the world stage thinking like, okay, like this, I think we're onto something, guys. They've gaslit themselves so bad that they even start to believe in the radical monogamy shit
Yeah,
definition. And
they
so they're
did.
like, we should do a podcast. I don't think they were expecting like, if not 99% of the comments. I didn't see one. I know they removed the comments, but I didn't even see one that was all for it. Like just to say like, cool beans, nothing, nobody.
And again, like this is not about polyamory. You want to be polyamorous, be polyamorous, but don't try
Don't
to
call it.
redefine it and call it something else. Call it what it is. And
Yeah,
the other thing here is what is happening with Vailana and the breakdown of her and her coercion into it.
that's really
It's not a
devastating.
full consent. I don't feel like it's full consent, even though she says, like, don't tell me that I'm not choosing this. She says that.
She has no choice but to choose that. So yeah, she is choosing it because she thinks doesn't have one, or
Yeah.
she really doesn't have one because of her codependent self cannot get out of that relationship.
Yeah. The other red flag with this doctor is he mentions really briefly, I mean, you could barely hear him say it, Barbara Marx Hubbard.
Mm.
She
Mhm.
is a staunch transhumanist and connected to these elite spiritual circles that are, ushering in this new paradigm, like new world order kind of stuff. So that tells you what his connections are.
Yeah, what he's trying to sell.
Yeah. And he talks about like this, whoever this person Daniel is, and how he would have been so empty had he not been polyamorous and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why don't you ask the question then? Why am I so empty? Why do I need multiple women in order to fill myself up, to siphon their energy, to make me feel good? Maybe the question is, why am I so empty? Maybe that's the question in all of this. Not what's wrong with Vailana or Alana, but what's wrong with you? Why are you so empty that you need multiple partners in relationship? That you can't fill yourself up from within because you're an empty vessel being used by entities. That's why. And calling it spiritual.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
It's completely outrageous. This is what happens in these relationships is when they take the woman, they make her internalize everything
Mhm.
while they just get to remain empty and not ask any questions of themselves.
Well,
There's
he said
no
that he healed all his shadow.
self-reflection. He said that in a tweet after the podcast that he healed all of his shadow
And he
and
forgives all of us.
he forgives us all for our judgments, and he will take all the judgments that are being thrown. He will take them all on for, everybody else because, he's like,
He is king.
he's the king. Mm-hmm.
Just like super unconscious. Oh, good. It just really like that whole thing irked me. That's that was the video in a nutshell.
Oh, then he says something, the doctor. I don't want to
This is
call him
another
doctor.
quote.
Just call him Mark.
Who,
What
Dr.
did he
Fate?
say about Trinity and her friend? What was I didn't write down the
It was something along the lines of Neo, the chosen one. He had his Trinity and her friend. And we're like,
and her friend.
what? Again, like, what? Something along the lines of that. That's not a direct quote, but implying that like Trinity and her friend. I'm like,
Trinity
okay, now
and her
you're just
friend.
fucking making shit up, bro.
Right. And they're talking about like this whole pre-tragic and tragic and
Oh,
post-tragic and like really defining it in these
so
terms that
dramatic.
they've come up with. And the pre-tragic is when they're all together and getting along and everything's great. And the tragic hits when Aubrey gets that message from Isis and has to tell everybody that he needs to impregnate them. That's the tragic phase. That's when everything kind of starts to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tragedy, because like if that, like how are you going to deal with that? The most intense experience of their life is supernatural experience that they're having in Egypt. First of all, you don't just go into an Egyptian temple and do an activation because you don't know what you're doing.
No,
And you don't know what
barely.
you're activating. You don't know what kind of energy Egypt has a lot of dark, 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 dark energy. You don't know if you're
Yeah.
activating like old ancient curses. You don't know what entities you're conjuring up. You really have no idea what you're activating
Mm-hmm.
when you go into these temples to do an activation. I think that is just ridiculous in itself. And nobody should be doing that.
Well, it's just like the spiritual thing to do. That's the thing. It's like it doesn't really matter what we're doing. It holds that the idea, the look, The words.
This is really like
Ugh,
materialist spirituality. Like it's just so empty and meaningless.
it
There's no
is.
depth to it.
No,
It's just so like glib and empty
it
and and
is.
being passed off as divine and spiritual, and
You're
when it's
right.
really just a bunch of people living out their base desires, and that's it, and calling it spiritual.
Right.
Yeah. So again, like Vailana's deepest wound is playing out. She's getting hit out of left field. As soon as she starts to feel safe in this relationship, this connection with him, what happens? She gets targeted. She's being hit out of left field by the same entity that's probably been doing this to her whole life, because that's how this works. And it's not just this life, which is, it could be why it happened in Egypt, because this probably connects back to Egypt, connects back to Lemuria when this has happened before, and all the lifetimes in between, because these entities follow the divine feminine and do this exact thing. It's the same playbook every single time.
I just want to break it down further
Break
and further.
it down. Yes. And so it's time for the divine feminine to really see clearly through all of these deceptions. Because you can only blame them for so long before you have to take responsibility and see clearly and do what's in alignment with yourself and stop betraying yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was annoying too. And he said he got too high one day
The whole thing
on
was
one of
just
his, oh, he didn't describe it like that, like he was high, because he won't say that. They use words like medicine for his plant medicine.
is this
It's
another God bomb
just,
kind of thing?
no, it was just him doing, I don't know what he was doing
Oh,
that
like
day.
spiritual crack.
Spiritual crack. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Because it was from the Himalayas.
he does too much medicine, too many drugs one day, gets too high, and can't make it to Vailana's performance. She has this big performance with her sound and music that she's supposed to do. And where's her husband? He's too high to go there. But the way it's defined is that, he just got too deep into the medicine. Sorry, can't make it. What?
And therefore she's not allowed to be upset by that.
Right. Because
Like, why?
he was healing, he was doing medicine. It wasn't drugs, it wasn't high, it was medicine. So how can you, that's right. So then she can't be mad about that. That's the implied statement there. She can't be mad about that, because then Alana went and Alana supported her
Thank
in his
God.
place. Or no, I'm sorry. Alana stayed home with him.
Oh, I thought she went. Oh yeah, throughout the video, I kept saying her like, "Oh fuck him." One of the two women get together and form like a relationship. You're better off.
They're safe together.
Yeah, drop him.
They're
What a
safe
loser.
together. Yeah.
He'll have
No,
he'll
she
find.
didn't go with Milana. She stayed at home with him.
Ugh,
Milana went by herself.
ugh.
Yeah,
God, that must have pissed her off.
but she's not allowed to be pissed off.
Right.
Because if you're pissed off, there's something wrong with you. You got to look at yourself. Why are you pissed off? Shouldn't be. I was
Yeah,
just
I was
doing
doing medicine.
medicine. I was doing medicine. Medicine journey. I'm doing a medicine journey on the day of her biggest performance yet. Why would you do that?
Right.
And then accidentally take too much? I'm sorry, that's not
Right.
an accident.
Just say you don't want to fucking go, you know? Or like steal her thunder. It's almost like he doesn't want her to be successful, like or
Mm-hmm.
not wanting to support that success. It's like an
Yeah.
unconscious, if it was not conscious, an unconscious like sabotaging.
Sabotage.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then she won't need him anymore as much as she does.
Yeah, he wanted to break her down a little bit. That's really devastating. No support there again.
Right. Unsupported.
And
That's the
he's always the
big,
one who's supported.
right. He's always supported and she's left unsupported. Yeah, and just she said that it's been a death for me. Them being intimate without me is a death for me.
Right?
Yeah,
Because how
and
is that decided?
I have no idea.
You know, like, I mean, they don't talk about that, but I mean, like, in that relationship, it's just like, how is that decided? Like, okay, well, where are you gonna sleep tonight? Because,
Yeah, they don't talk about any of the details of like how it actually works, and there's a lot of like implied chaos. There's a lot of implied chaos that they touch on but don't go into. Like a lot of
yeah, it's vague.
heartache and heartbreak and just tragedy,
It,
real tragedy in their tragic
right. They make it
phase.
so poetic,
Yeah, it's tragic.
poetic and dramatic.
Mhm. The other thing with Alana, the goddess, she's also like a parentified child. She's almost like the referee between the two of them. You know what a parentified child is, like the child in the family that one or both parents go to for advice. Like sometimes it's really like and support and like they offload emotional support onto this child and they become like the parent of the family. And that's what's happening here with Alana. She's becoming the parentified child. She's the emotional support person for the mother and father in this dynamic. And she just wants to be seen by them for her purity and her act of service to this dynamic. And it gives her a sense of purpose as well. Like
Yeah.
that's her purpose.
Hmm. Any other points?
Mm,
It's just ick. I read it
oh,
5 icky stars.
so here's the quote that you were
Oh, that's okay.
by Lana. Something wants to come through, she says. It's pressing to come through. Like she wants to get this out, to voice this. She says, I guess in her mind, she's thinking, can I really choose this? Because in a beautiful sound ceremony we did with Alexandre, I met a part of myself that felt like I could potentially be really happy in just a monogamous relationship where there isn't this shared time and attention and all these things. And I was sort of overriding that with my will to choose. But I actually met that very real part of me. And so I was in this inquiry for a while of who am I? Am I the woman that abandons myself?
Mm.
And it was torturous because it's so not who I am. And I think it's important to speak into this space of, you can look at it as me submitting myself to his desire, but I
Hmm.
would love for you to speak to the unique sacrifice.
There's that fucking word again.
That was it. That was the moment I think you were talking about where you're like, oh,
She's gone.
she's done. Because this Mark has convinced her that this is the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
She met this part of her, the part of her that really truly wants to be in a monogamous relationship, which she always has from the very start. That's what she said. This is not for me. I don't want anything to do with this. And she met that part of her, whether it was in a vision or whatever. that truly wants that. And she had to ask, like, am I actually abandoning myself?
She asks all the right questions.
Yeah, she's asking all the right questions, but then they're gaslighting her and telling her, yeah, you're not abandoning yourself because we can't, because that's what he says. We can't actually abandon ourselves. It's about the sacrifice
He's such a fucking asshole.
for something higher. He keeps saying something
Another
higher than
he
us.
raise the roof. Oh god, he's so
Something higher.
fucking disgusting.
To be the hero of my life, there's a sacrificial act. Reciprocity of the sacrificial in all great relationships.
This is Dr. Fake.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Then he compared it to Jesus on the cross,
Oh yeah,
being a
oh,
martyr for
oh
the
yeah.
sake of the greater good.
Keep going. Is that the one where he was talking about like going to work 17 hours a day and giving some money? Remember that one? Or that stupid comment he made? He's like, it's yeah, the greatest sacrifice, like working 17 hours a day and then giving that money to your family that lives across the sea or something. And I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Nothing.
Right.
So dumb.
He made so many like of those, it's like this and like that. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. You're not even close.
Right.
Try
And
again.
the message is if I feel dead inside, if I feel empty inside, I should give in to my desires because instead of asking why I feel dead inside, it's a,
Right.
and like you said, like everyone's
Such a
pouring from
lower.
empty cups. It's just pouring.
You're just like, oh, it's terrible.
And that's Satanism. It's do what thou wilt is the tenet of Satanism. And I'll have to make all of this up so that I can do what I want without with it actually sounding spiritual, without any backlash. Just make it sound spiritual. Then they go into this like compromise versus sacrifice. And what I
Oh
want to
yeah,
know
that
is like,
one.
what is Aubrey sacrificing?
Yeah, that was $1 million question. Like,
What
how
is he
many times did we ask
sacrificing?
that? We asked
What
that
is
many
anybody
times during.
sacrificing except for Vailana?
Right.
She's really the only one that seems to be sacrificing here.
Yeah. She
Oh,
literally is.
so just to go back to that, what you were saying earlier about like how it was set up and they were so far apart and no one could comfort her when she was crying. Well, it was so interesting because I came across this other video
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it was an interview of a rap group that
Hmm.
was it was one of Diddy's rap groups like making the band. I forget what the name of the rap group was, but it was a really intense interview because they started asking them like about Diddy and stuff and you
Like
could
if he did
tell,
anything.
yeah, you could
Okay.
tell like some of the guys, there was what, like six guys there, I think. And
Well,
like they
okay.
were kind of trying to laugh it off, like they didn't want to get into serious. But you see one guy sitting there, like totally serious face on, and he starts talking
Mm.
and he starts saying how Diddy did something to him that he felt was somehow related to a sacrifice. And then he was like diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And like he had a really, really, really hard time after that. And and he starts crying, and all the guys around him start crying
And touching them.
and touching him, like, it's all right, man. Like, like
Yeah.
giving him
You have like, real
tissues,
emotion.
like, yeah, giving him
Like, yeah.
tissues, like, yeah, patting him on the back, like, we're here, don't worry, it's okay. It was total contrast to this interview where Vailana's like dying inside and crying her eyes out, and no one's giving her a tissue, no one's patting her on the back, no one's touching her and
No one's
consoling
touching
her.
her. Like I said, like no one's coming in like to just place a hand on her. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm sure all of them were just like, not on camera, like taking drink breaks. Like
You felt no empathy coming from Aubrey towards her as she's breaking down
He
and
doesn't give a
crying
fuck.
about this.
He doesn't give a fuck. He's a king. He is king.
And he talks about being a king too at some point
God,
in the,
you
he
can't help.
does.
You
He
can't help but
does.
laugh, like, because it's so fucking ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a dark sorcerer
Mm.
and he's in control of all the resources, right? As
Mm.
the the man with the money and the power, he's in control of all the resources. Yeah.
Like, take your singing bowls and go, girl.
Yeah, he sees himself as a true king.
Oh, wow. Like, you have to have an ego that big to even fucking say that out loud, you know, and believe yourself.
Yeah, I really wanted to make this video to point these things out because they're not always obvious to people. I mean, this guy has a big following, so there are obviously people that are in alignment with this, maybe being fooled by the flowery language and the plant medicine and, you know, the fur coats and the festivals and whatever. And the poems and the supplement, like whatever
I
he's
know.
selling.
It's so, yeah, it's hard to kind of
It's
spot the tear.
it's not real. Yes, the tear.
He's not a wheat, guys.
He's not a wheat.
He's a tear.
Yeah.
Yeah, disguising in his fur coat like a pimp. He looks like, yeah. Namaste.
Namaste. But no, it's an important conversation. I am grateful to him for having the guts to post that video because it really
Having the
opened up,
confidence.
yeah, the ego.
Mm.
It really opened up the conversation and it was really amazing to hear some of these like response videos, especially the ones by those guys.
The
Like to
trio of the
hear
men.
men, yes, to hear men talk about it was so inspiring. I'm
They
gonna
felt like
post
real men. Like,
real men.
finally, I was like, finally, fuck, a real man.
Yeah.
3 real men.
Right. Calling out what's not right. What's wrong? Calling out what's wrong. This is wrong.
Yeah.
And just saying it like straight
Black and
up with
white.
real language,
Right.
like real language without trying to make it sound better or fancy or without disclaimers. That was another thing that a lot of
Oh,
people were
that was really
doing
fucking annoying too.
with the disclaimers, like with the response videos, they have to come in with a 10-minute disclaimer about how this, this isn't about polyamory and, all this stuff,
Whatever.
you know.
Quickly. You do you. I do me. But don't gaslight me. Or try to put it in our face
Hmm.
and sell me a product and saying that, it's good for me. Whatever it is.
Yeah. Any final thoughts or notes in on your end?
I think everything was said. Um, yeah, my final thought really is I feel very sad about for those two. Well, yeah, for the two of them. I mean, they are being used. And it's oh God, it's just like that part of me that just wants justice. Like, you fucker, you're a predator and you know exactly what you're doing. And blaming it on the spirits or God that's telling you whatever, but you're not. It's really just what you want. You're the one who sets the ground rules. And it's just maddening to watch and to see them, like, go on their missions or what they coin as missions and losing themselves in it. Yeah, it's just really sad to watch someone like openly betray themselves and
Call it freedom.
call it freedom and calling it sacred when there's nothing sacred about it. There's no connection involved, like real true connection deep within. And even with the partnerships, it's really just like, what do I want right now and what makes me feel good right now. That's it, the end.
Yeah, and it's totally a crossover ancient times. It's an ancient Atlantis timeline coming in and destroying the Lemurians, siphoning the light. Like
Yeah.
it's an incursion. And if you are in a divine union right now, watch out because they are looking to destroy divine unions. Not saying that Aubrey and Bailana were, but just in general, this is happening across the board. I've seen so many people that are getting hijacked right now. Um,
Really?
yeah, these dark masculine entities are out for blood,
Oh,
literally.
yeah. 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 It's really hard because it's like, like I forgot how we coined it, like with the masculine. This is just like a general thing, like how they have, like their ego is being used, and it's kind of hard for them to get out of the programming because they really wounded them so hard.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to describe it, like where they can't break away from it to kind of be able to see it for what it is. I found like that, like you said, that video with the three men, when I said finally men, like what men should be. Um,
Like
they
so
don't
clear. They were so
that
clear without that
yeah,
distortion.
yeah.
Without the like
The
the
game plan or
exorbitance,
whatever,
right? And the exorbitance of the ego or being too soft in their feminine, like they were like so
balanced.
balanced and in that balance there was a clarity that was so refreshing and so
Yes.
genuine and authentic, like you
Yeah.
could feel that.
Yes.
And that's what alignment feels like.
Yes. Compared to like us watching the actual video of the Aubrey video.
Where we had to pause it every two
Pause it
seconds.
every 2 seconds. Like, no, literally pausing it every 2 seconds. Whereas just watching these men talk, it was like a straightaway, maybe a couple of pauses, but it was such a flow.
Right, because
And I
the
was like,
body
oh,
wasn't in resistance to it.
no.
So I will post both videos down below. If you guys haven't seen either, check them both out and notice the difference in how your body feels as you watch both, as you
Mm,
watch each one. Because this isn't about tearing people down. That's not what we're doing here. We're
yeah,
really looking at these people as archetypes. This is what we see in our work almost every day. And this is an ancient relationship and dynamics that have been playing out for eons. And the time is up. And that's why people are so having this big reaction to it. Because it's like, no, like this isn't going to happen anymore. And so it's not about them personally, it's about what they're representing.
yeah,
And so I don't want you to think like we're bashing them personally. It's not about them. It's really the archetypes that they represent and how that has played out over eons and how it's like now time for that to end.
yeah,
That's not going to work anymore. And I think the response from the public, it shows that like we're not accepting this anymore. Anything that's not authentic, not in alignment, not truly genuine. And this inversion is just not being
mm,
accepted anymore.
yeah,
So that's really what this is about, is like not accepting that inversion anymore and not sacrificing anymore. As much as this Mark guy wants to tell you that sacrifice is good for something higher, for who? For ISIS?
shouldn't give a
She's
fuck.
not living your life. Folks isn't living your life. God's not living your life. None of these entities are living your life. You have to do what's in alignment with you, no matter what they're telling you. Listen, it's rare that you're going to find a spirit here that doesn't have some kind of agenda. That's just the truth.
Here,
So,
here.
whatever they're telling you, always question it and ask yourself if it's in alignment with your spirit or your ego. Does your
Mm.
ego want to impregnate two women? Because that sounds cool. Like,
Yeah. And these men can just leave. They have no fucking obligation to be tied to a baby. This is not news. It's not new. I mean, it's happening all the time. Men have babies and they fucking go. Like, It's not new.
Yeah.
Now, again, I say that for whatever, not for everybody, but you know what I mean.
Or they just want to do it because they have that sense of being like God, being like God, that they can persuade these women to carry their seed, to
Good.
birth their children, and have this, physical representation of them on the earth
Mm.
so that they can, yeah, it's all about like seeding. It's about seeding the earth with their energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, thank
it's
you.
enough ranting.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you guys if you watched that or have any feedback. Leave us leave us your comments down below. And any final thoughts?
No. Good.
No.
Let's just see. Let's see.
Let's see.
We'll see you guys all. Thank you for coming today. Yeah. Like the video or comment, and we'll see you again. Oh
On
no.
the next
On the
episode.
next episode. Set myself up again.
Bye, guys. See you next
Bye guys.
time.
Take care. Peace.